Hello, I'm APX Toycat, and the latest snapshot really is going to start a redstone revolt against Mojang over just a single tick. This is a very big deal that we can explain today, alongside exactly what the trial chamber entrance is. We have some interesting news from that latest snapshot, but the Bedrock equivalent is also filled with weird reveals, such as a brand new mob and a feature which looks like this. If any of that was confusing, don't worry, this is Q&A Saturday, the weekly series where I answer your questions, such as why are the redstone community moaning right now, and why do they feel like something's been taken away from them that's as big as quasi connectivity? Well, the simple answer can be found in this comment from DiscoBot2724, who says wish they didn't take away the unique tick delay on the copper bulb. This is because the copper bulb and the crafter had a 1 tick delay for their redstone rather than 2 until the latest snapshot, where they said they changed this specifically to make it more consistent with other blocks that drop or eject items, meaning that it is now less useful to redstone players. Why would they do this? Well, officially they say that yeah, it's about creating consistency with other blocks, which I think a lot of people get down with, and when they say that as a result of this, some contraptions built during the last few snapshots may no longer work properly, I think some people feel sympathy for people who built contraptions in a snapshot, but you can't expect them to work all the way to the update, right? Except here's the weird thing, they're implying this is just fixing a bug which they accidentally introduced, but we have a direct contradiction of that from King B Dogs, who specifically says he's really loving to see how much love there has been for the copper bulb. The team and I put a lot of work into designing this one, and it seems to have paid off. And then specifically responding to someone saying, was the 1 tick delay intentional, with the answer, yes. This implies that they were intending to go for a 1 tick delay on the copper bulb and the redstone crafter so that people would have new options, and then all of a sudden, just a couple of weeks later, reversing course and deciding to do this. That is what has people up in arms, to the point where even the person King B Dogs complimented for their copper bulb skills actually changed their bio to Mojang ruined everything, because that is a very strong belief amongst a lot of redstone people. There is a big revolt with the majority of players saying this was a bad change. So why exactly did they do it? And first things first, don't blame or attack Mojang employees ever, especially because you're just shooting the messenger. But in this case, we have a really interesting insight into the development process. King B Dog said that the 1 tick delay was intentional, and I believe that that is how they intentionally put it into the Java version. But then we had a delay in the Bedrock equivalent of the snapshot, the preview, and then that Bedrock preview didn't have the 1 tick delay, and then it was removed from the Java version, and rather than blame Bedrock, they used some diplomatic tone about just making it more consistent with other blocks. And so either they changed their mind randomly with no explanation in just 2 weeks, or something about the Bedrock development process made them realize they couldn't get it working there, and so for parity reasons they needed to make it the same on both, or in other words, slightly more boring. This is the slightly darker side of parity. I would say that redstone should be exempt, but that is not what Mojang themselves would say. And speaking of what Mojang themselves would say, we have heard nothing from them about the armadillo since it first came out, but you might know that this week in the preview and beta, they actually introduced a new line of code that looks like this: armadillo:_entity_alpha test. This is a very early sign that they are working on the armadillo somewhere in the game code, which is really, really fun. I think this is going to be an interesting feature because out of everything revealed at Minecraft Live this year, the armadillo is the only feature we know about in Minecraft 1.21 that has been announced but won't be in the game. There is a bunch more features, obviously, that will come to the update over the next few months, and so it's so interesting to me that we don't know about any of that. There's a lot of mystique in there, but what I also thought was fun was this comment from Dachi Got You, who said the Strider strode so the armadillo could run, of course referring to this community post that I did, showing off the old design for the Strider, which, looking back at it with our new armadillo eyes now, looks suspiciously like a low-res armadillo, right? I'm just saying, I see the link. Speaking of, if you want to see the latest in Minecraft history, as well as a bunch of weird news before we can post it on the channel, consider subscribing to the channel with notifications turned on so you see the community posts. This is where I inform people of streams going live, this is where we give fun historical facts, as well as the latest news that doesn't necessarily make sense as a full video. And I guess, somewhat relatedly, Idol Mako says bro be going for a jog, sees a leak, and immediately starts recording Lamau. And so let me tell you about the latest leak, because I just got back from my jog. Oh, it was absolutely exhausting, let me tell you. I've been running a mile for every subscriber I get, so I've been running like 3-4 miles a day recently. Anyway, speaking of running 3 or 4 miles a day, that's something you might do when you learn that there are new features coming to Minecraft Bedrock that have been revealed by the same code leaks, and Smokey Stack is someone who shared these. It seems like the new realm stories and player profile screen is almost ready. These are interesting enough features by themselves, but I wouldn't say that they tip the balance on being the most interesting. But what might be the most interesting is this brand new feature, which looks like this, with all of the fun mobs looking at the marketplace, and then this little image to entice you into it. And in case that's not enough by itself, let me tell you about a brand new feature that's being advertised using these two images. There's a bunch of of animals overlooking the marketplace, and then there is this weird image of Steve and a goat getting out of a portal together while Alex waits to the side. You know, this is canonically Alex and Steve breaking up and Steve getting together with a goat, or more seriously, according to Smuggy Stack, it is referred to in the game code as the Minecraft Marketplace Pass. The left is a warning when purchasing, and the right is the subscription banner. This is incredibly interesting if you ask me, because it sounds like Mojang wants to get on that subscription revenue, and instead of selling you marketplace maps individually, instead sell you a fixed amount every single month, in the same way that Xbox Game Pass gives you access to 1,000 games, and somehow it's more profitable to sell you those for £8 a month than to just have you buy the games individually. The same might be true for the marketplace, which is wild to say the least, but also is not going to be about its controversy. I think I realized from posting a video earlier this week where I praised the Angry Birds map for being actually pretty good, people go, whoa, I can't believe you're saying anything that costs real world money is good, Toy Cat. And I think it's really important to have a pragmatic approach to these things. If there is going to be a marketplace in Minecraft, it is more important that it has good products and that it is good value for money than to have it not exist at all and then not get your desire. In my opinion, that's how you should do things, but just in case that still makes you mad, let me distract you with a fun bug in the latest preview. I found this while doing research for tomorrow's video, which is going to be kind of like a hybrid between Seed Sunday and a structure explainer for the trial chambers. If you look at this room and you see anything interesting, you'll know where we're going with it, because this relates to the trial chambers in a very heavy way, but also what relates to the trial chambers is this fun little bug right here. Take a waxed copper grate and then use an axe on it, and it will become an unwaxed copper grate. What do you think happens if you try to re-wax it again? Well, the answer, if you guessed actually turning into a solid copper block, would be wrong, and then you can axe this and it's a regular old copper block. Is this meant to happen? Definitely not, but it's an accidental duplication glitch, I guess, because any copper grate, which costs a lot less than a copper block, can immediately be turned into one. I would love to know what happened in the game code for this to possibly be true, because I find it absolutely funny personally. I wonder if it happens to even, you know, the slightly less exposed ones. Well, this, which I now wax, and then redo that, no, it only happens to the fully unoxidized version, so you have to unoxidize it all the way and then do it, and I don't understand any of this. Speaking of not understanding things, this is a relevant time to bring up the trial chambers again, because on this channel we've had a theory for a while that this room might just be some secret vault that you have to enter using a key. This is something that I have long since said, however, a lot of people in the comments have been pushing back on that, saying the room with the tree is definitely the entrance, and then Brian Lou Zero has an even better piece of evidence because they say it's labeled as such in the files, and this is actually true. If you look in the game files, it's called corridor/entrance_1, which generates in every trial chamber, and this is a really interesting point that you might think slams it down. This is definitely the entrance to the trial chambers. However, I have two problems with this theory. One of these is the fact that there's no way to actually be more likely to enter here than anywhere else, and two is the fact of what entrance means. You might refer to the door into something as being the entrance, that is true, but you'd also probably call the area just outside that door also the entrance. You use the entrance to enter into the room of question, and so this could be the entrance not just because it's the first room you enter in a trial chamber, which again, it isn't actually right now, but instead, more likely to my mind, it's the entrance into whatever is coming beyond that. The main purpose of the trial chamber, perhaps the reason we have these trial keys is something you'll enter into using them from here. I do have to say it is possible because in a big house, when you have a huge house and you've got a hallway that you enter into, you could call that the entrance as well, but it is entirely possible that an entrance means it's the first room before going into something else, as opposed to the first room going into a trial chamber, and until there is some way to limit you going into the trial chamber in one way over another, there is no room that would really be an entrance in a logical way, and I think a lot of people will look quite silly unless they implement some way that stops you from mining in from the top of this place or from the bottom or any other direction. At that point, I would concede this is an entrance, but otherwise it has no validity over any other room besides having a couple of chests and a tree, which is a pretty weak justification if you ask me. Speaking of weak justifications, this week I was raiding a trial chambers and I realized something really fun, which is that the block of diamond I got from breaking a pot in that run was actually a 1 in 551 chance. This doesn't relate to any questions this week, it's just a fun thing. Although really, if you think about it, most of the things that we dive into in questions on Q&A Saturday are more comments that we're responding to than questions, but this actually is a question from Adam XX F6SQ, who says, so does that mean in a parallel universe, breezes were added to the Aether years ago and are crucial to beating the Ender Dragon, while blazes are just now being added in the trial chambers? That is responding to this image in case you're curious and lost. But yes, that is exactly what's happening, and we're speculating over what the blaze might drop in this universe, but like, oh, it's a fire version of the breeze. That's such a novel concept. Oh, it lights you on fire. How scary. It is funny to imagine the tiny differences that a small change like that could really have on a game as big as Minecraft. And so, for example, right now, we would be having nostalgia about when Queen A Cats made the Nether mod way back when. Crazy to think she's a developer of Minecraft now. You know, it's a really fun thing that if you change small things in the past, you make big differences in the future, which I used to see when I was like an edgy teenager as like, yeah, man, the whole world's like, you know, it's destructive, it's all gonna go one day. But I kind of see that now as like, if small differences in the past make huge differences in the future, you are currently living in the past of your future. You should be making those small changes to make a much better future, but that's too motivational. So instead, let's go into Sarai's question. What happened, Toycat? You are almost at 2 mil, but now at 1.87. I call shenanigans. I think this is a Mandela effect style thing, where to you, it feels like you were in a universe where I had 2 million subscribers, but what actually happened is you rounded up 1.7 something million into 2 million. We have been getting subscribers recently, something I've been very pleased with, except for the long runs I've had to go on. I mean, just right now, I'm gonna have to go on another 130,000 mile walk just so I can get myself up to, you know, 2 million subscribers, which I guess I'll be doing now, so one sec.
Later that same evening.
Okay, I'm now in the car. I'm on the way up the mountain, halfway through the UK. It's people say it's a small country, but it takes hours to drive from one side to the other. Anyway, that is how I'm gonna get my 130,000 miles. And so if you wanna do your bit to making sure I have to walk more miles upwards, please consider subscribing to this channel. And yeah, I guess I'll upload this actually before I get to the top, because you know, you wanna see it on Saturday and not, but anyway, make sure that you like the video so that I don't die tomorrow morning. Thank you, goodbye.